right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable, episode 47. I'm being joined here by El Capitan, HCP CEO, D-Style Boxing, and the other half of HCP, G Funky, Dave from the Shoe Shine podcast, Dave 408, Maestro A from Maestro Boxing, and my partner in crime from Ringside Reporter, Eric Lauder. What's going on, everybody?
How you doing?
It's a great
good,
day.
man.
It's a glorious day. You know what I mean? I saw the Cobra Strike be used like live in HD 2 days ago. So yeah.
Well, let's segue right into that. As everyone has seen this past Tuesday, the big press conference between Canelo Alvarez, Caleb Plant, to kick off their promotion for their fight on November 6th. A lot of different takes on it. Some people think Canelo got the better of Plant. Some people think Plant got the better of Canelo. Regardless of what you think, in my opinion, this was great promotion for the fight. So let's just pass it around and chime in on what you guys think about that press conference and if it's going to have any impact, if at all, in the fight. D-Style, why don't you start us off here?
Well, look, here's the thing, all right? So Canelo's been walking around literally calling every one of his foes, right, a motherfucker. Like that's what he's been doing. I'm just saying, okay? Now, I don't know if Canelo just thinks or it hasn't processed in his head yet that motherfucker is motherfucker, right? And he just thinks it's one word with a bunch of syllables, right? I don't know yet. But it is ironic and you know, hypocritical to get mad when someone calls you a motherfucker. You know, just because it's not pronounced that way doesn't mean it doesn't make it any different. You know, maybe Caleb said mother in the proper form in English, and it just struck a nerve, and Canelo got mad. Maybe there's more to it. Look, in fairness, I don't think Canelo should have shoved him that way, right? But also in fairness, this is boxing, not tennis. This isn't this isn't ballet. Okay, this isn't it's not the teachers conference with the parents and shit. That's not what this is. This is boxeo. This is boxing, and I'm tired of people virtual signaling and acting like they never seen a fighter do something like this. Like what do you mean? Like Larry Holmes got it on top of a car and drop kicked the dude. And that was awesome. Like, should he have done it? Probably not, right? But he did it. Okay. Fury pushed Wilder at the weigh-in in their last fight. You know what I mean? Shoved him like pretty far back. You know what I mean? So, look, I'll keep it very brief to pass it around. I was very entertained by what I saw because I do feel it was organic, right? And anything organic, I'm all for it. This is how these guys really feel. These guys don't like each other. Cool. Okay. I don't want fighters to be friends and all that. I want them to be competitive. That they don't all have to be bad blood, but if there is bad blood, hey, you know what I mean? It's not, I'm not like the friend in the middle or some shit. Let's do it. Okay. By the way, Canelo, you just have to do this test. Okay. Pretend Canelo was the man and Plant was a woman. Okay? Let's try to picture that in your head and the same thing happened. You would be saying, hey, Canelo she slapped him, but he should have hit her that way. Okay? And I'm glad they restrained him. That's what people would have said. Now reverse the roles. Say Canelo's a woman and Plant is a man. Everybody would have said that chick whooped that dude's ass. Okay? That's how you know who got the best of who. And I'll leave it at that.
Eric, we talked about this. We were texting back and forth about this when this was going on. What were your thoughts on this press conference, and do you think this is going to be good promotion for the fight?
I think it's great promotion for the fight. I mean, this is what we want to see. I mean, D-Style hit it on the head. It's organic. You know, they don't like each other. Caleb Plant has been talking trash about Canelo and everything like that. They don't like each other, man. And this was great for promotion. That being said, promotion, Showtime, and everybody else, why they didn't have anybody on that stage to get these guys away. Because look, man, when I saw that cut underneath Plant's eye, and Plant was wearing glasses, and he gets hit. He gets hit with those glasses. Those glasses, as we saw it later on, it was a scratch. It was a deep scratch or whatever. It didn't require stitches or anything like that. That's just it's about an inch away from his eye. That could have put this fight in jeopardy. That could have put his career in jeopardy. Where in the world? Listen, it's okay to scuffle. Again, man, they go in there, they scuffle or whatever. That's the biggest thing. You don't want people putting hands on each other before the fight. Bar none. That's it. Point blank. You do not put your hands on the other person before the fight. That's it. And I don't know if Canelo was lost in translation with what Plant said. I know Canelo said it to Demetrius Andrade. He said it to him. So maybe he knows what it means. Maybe he doesn't know what it means. I don't know. But either way, there should have been somebody to step in there. You watch the UFC and there's always somebody there. There's always somebody in the middle of there, at least making an effort to try to get between these two guys. And that's what should have happened. I mean, this was a huge fail on Showtime, a huge fail on all of the promoters there, all the security there, everybody. This was a big time fail. That being said, this generates a lot of interest. But again, it's, not as a promoter, it's not really what you want because this fight really could have been called off at any point. I mean, a guy could have got injured. He gets assaulted. He could pull out. He can get irritated and pull out. Look at, anything could have happened. So yeah, that's not a good idea.
Gotcha. Shout out to JC. He says, salute to the panel. Let's get it going. Thank you so much for that super chat. Alex T as well. Thank you. He says, War Plant slapped the shit out of Canelo, but Cinnamon countered. D-Style, keep it real. It's not the BS. All love, though. Thank you, Al Heyman. Thank you so much, Alex T, for that super chat. All right. Dave.
If I don't keep it real, will you give me another super chat? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, don't keep it real. Keep it coming. Dave, what were your thoughts on this press conference, brother?
Yeah, I was shocked. I found it kind of reckless, to be honest, because like he was saying just prior to me, is that this fight could have completely been in jeopardy as a result of their choices made on that afternoon. In terms of historical perspective, it reminds me of the Barrera versus Morales in terms of violence, which was very exciting and worthwhile for creating buzz around this fight, right? Now there's a lot of buzz. It stole the thunder from Usyk and Joshua this week, two guys that are complete gentlemen. And it also had a little bit of element of De La Hoya versus Mayorga, where Mayorga managed to get deep underneath the skin of Oscar De La Hoya with his choice of words, the way he defamed Oscar's family. I mean, you can see how bothered Canelo is by Caleb Plant. At the same time, Caleb Plant made a poor choice in wearing sunglasses to the stage. I was sucker punched at a bar when I was 21, and I was wearing my my eyeglasses, and I learned my lesson from that. Never go out to a bar wearing glasses. And that's a mistake he made. I could have just put this whole fight in jeopardy for an extended period of another 4 or 6 weeks while he had that. If it was any deeper than that, or like they said, near the eye, it could have really put this fight in jeopardy. As it stands now, there's probably a lot of buzz as a result of this incident.
Man, shots fired at you, Funky, huh?
At me?
Maestro, I know you're not a huge Plant fan.
And Maestro, because they're wearing glasses. You know what I'm saying?
You've been pretty critical.
No shots fired. What I was saying was, don't wear glasses to a bar. I mean, especially if it's a rowdy bar, man. You never know what kind of trouble goes down at a drinking establishment.
Or at least take them off when something's getting ready to pop off.
Right, and you felt that, and you felt something
Canelo
was getting ready to pop off,
like Canelo did. Maestro, like I said, I mean, you're not a big fan of Plant. You've been pretty vocal speaking out against him, and I'm sure this press conference didn't change your mind at all. So let me know what you thought about this press conference, and if
look,
what you
I
think about Plant.
First and foremost, I find this whole thing very comical. I mean, the idea that Plant smacked the shit out of Canelo. I mean, I've smacked the shit out of people. I've seen people get clapped right in front of me. That was not that. People are acting as if this was Morales landing this is Morales landing on El Terrible. I mean, sorry, Barrera landing on El Terrible. It wasn't. This
It was
also
a cheap shot. It was a cheap shot.
this also, by the way, wasn't Derek Chisora.
Oh, he froze up a little bit. Okay, well, is he back? No. We'll go back.
Maestro?
We'll go back to you, Maestro. We'll let G jump. We'll let G take it. G, go ahead,
All right.
man.
I'll go ahead and go real quick, man. But I want to say this first, man. Like this is a hell of a panel we got here. A lot of boxing knowledge here, and I can't believe you guys missed the best press conference fight of all time when Riddick Bowe two-piece Larry Donald.
That was a cheap shot. Let me tell you what, that was a
Oh,
cheap shot.
man.
It was such a cheap shot.
That was the
That
worst
was the
cheap shot of all
cleanest-
time.
Yeah, it
One of the
was.
cleanest two pieces I've ever seen at a press conference, man. Let me
Because the
tell
guy
you.
was looking the other way. That's how we got to deal with somebody from Cincinnati. Let me tell you what, you're not gonna get a clean shot off on somebody from Ohio, man. Come on. You got to
That's
cheap
right.
shot him.
That's right, man. But here's my take, man. None of that stuff really bothered me. What happened? I see a lot of people got their panties all in a bunch over the whole thing. Look, man, I made a video about it the other day, just kind of making light at it, making fun of it and stuff. Because at the end of the day, really, that's what it is for me. You know, like this is just good promotion for the fight, which is I like that. The more people get interested, hopefully the more people will buy the fight, and the fight will do good numbers. But yeah, it's just, it's pretty funny how Canelo went full pancrase on this guy, hit him with 2 palm strikes, shout out to Boss Rudin and Frank Shamrock. All those dudes used to do that back in the day. But yeah, I don't really see a problem with anything. Nobody was seriously hurt. Thank God. Plant did suffer a little bit of a cut, but I'm more concerned with like a broken hand or something, because you don't want to be punching somebody in the face or in the head anywhere. You could definitely do some damage to your hand. So I'm just glad nobody was seriously injured. And let's just stop being so serious about the thing. A lot of you guys out there are really taking this thing too far. It's all just to hype up the fight. And they both did a really, really good job of it, man. I was really excited because it's been a long time since we've seen something like this happen at a press conference. So for me, it was like a breath of fresh air. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah. Real quick, when Canelo arrived at this press conference and he went to that middle of the stage and he took his sunglasses off, I could tell he was already upset. Now, the whole motherfucker thing, I don't think really bothered Canelo. I think the drug testing issue that Plant's been pushing with the tweets and the interviews and all of that, that really bothered Canelo more so than anything. And he was just itching to do something. He was hoping, in my opinion, that Plant would do something to aggravate him, because I don't think that this was premeditated, but I also think that, it wasn't like it didn't cross his mind that something could pop off today. And if he, says the wrong thing, then it's on. I do believe that was the case. Now, if you're a Plant fan, something troubling has to register in your mind if you watch that exchange, because Plant did get pushed. Obviously, Canelo initiated the contact, but when Plant came with that slapping left hook, he was just like, oh, I'm just going to bitch slap this dude. But the way Canelo reacted so quickly, how he could extemporaneously just snap into fight mode, and he was like, bap with the left hand, bap with the right hand, how quick that exchange went off, right? And how he slipped and rode that slap, right? That just shows you the difference in skill right then and there. So if you're a Plant fan, you have to be concerned about that. Like, if that little 10-second or 3 seconds or however long it was, that really showed us how more skilled Canelo is and how he was able to react, how his instincts are so much sharper than Plant's, right? That even not in a boxing match, but in a turn of a dime, how he could just turn it on like that. If you're a Plant fan, you got to be worried about that. So, with that being said, I do love what Plant did by coming back, because I was saying to myself, I hope he does something, because that shows me that, this is going to be a fight. he's not going to let Canelo punk him. I don't think either man's afraid of each other. I don't, right? But I do think at least Plant did establish the fact that I'm not intimidated and I'm not going to allow this guy to touch me without me touching him back. So real quick, thank you, Alex T. He said, Plant walked down that boy, slapped that boy. He deserved that shit after that unprovoked shove. Fuck that. I think M, me and motherfucker, going with the American war plan. Okay.
I want to say something what you said, B. You made a good point, but I think really what it is Canelo being so active. This will be his 4th fight in less than a year.
Yeah,
He's sharp. He's staying sharp, man. Look at Plant. He's been on the show for a little bit, so it just goes to show you, man, staying active, having fights, a lot of fights within a year pays off, man. I think that's really what's gonna overcome on fight night as well.
Afro G, thank you so much. He says, this slap fest took over this week. Everybody at work is talking about it, loving it. Yeah, this is great promotion for the fight. No doubt about it. All right, I want to switch gears here. The WBC, Mauricio Sulaiman in particular, wasn't too happy seeing Evander Holyfield get knocked out by Vitor Belfort. And this week, he released a statement, and he said he's going to reach out to the commissions and implore them to be more strict with the medicals and the protocol for assessing whether fighters are in condition to fight, particularly fighters who are over 40. And he was saying that he thinks that the commissions should be able to distinguish what are real fights and what are exhibitions. Now, a prime example of him having an influence was shortly after he did say that, Florida, the promoter for the Riddick Bowe Lamar Odom fight, they said that they are not going to allow Bowe to fight. So I don't know if that was a result of what the WBC did, or if obviously I'm sure the Evander Holyfield fight may have had an impact on it. But the promoter of that event was saying that Bowe's people didn't reveal his medical history, and they feel as though that, they were lied to or whatever. But everybody knows after seeing that footage of Bowe, training and shadow boxing, and, that had to have had an impact. And obviously that must have caused a lot of negative backlash in their direction. So do you guys think that the WBC can influence these commissions? And do you think that after what we saw with Evander Holyfield and now this situation with the Florida commission and the promoter pulling Bowe from that card, do you think that moving forward, the commissions are going to crack down on this and on these circus type fights, particularly with the retired fighters coming back? And do you think the WBC is genuine in their statement? Let's start with you, Eric.
No, I don't think the WBC is genuine with anything. They started a drug program, that clean boxing program. They don't follow that. They want the allure of, they want you to think that they're doing great things, and they're not. In reality, they're not really doing anything. I mean, that's the hard facts of it. It wouldn't surprise me if WBC sponsored one of these things. I mean, they're always giving away belts. I mean, they're giving away belts left and right. I got one, So, I mean, listen, man, the WBC, I take whatever they say with a grain of salt. Nothing they say holds water. I don't trust them. I don't trust Sulaiman at all. I mean, they should stay out of it is what they should do. And I don't think they had any say in Riddick Bowe getting pulled out of that fight. I think everybody coming down on them, all the media and stuff saying, hey, did you guys see this footage? Did you guys see this guy shadow boxing? He looked horrible. There's no way you can put him in the ring with anybody. That's what did it, not the WBC. And I don't know that for a fact. This is my guess. But listen, man, I think the commissions have to do a better job. But listen, I don't know that they're going to come out and they're going to say what they're going to say. But at the end of the day, if there's money to be made, that fight's going to happen. I mean, listen, man, Evander Holyfield shouldn't have been in that ring. Everybody knew that going in. He shouldn't have been in that ring. But it happened because there's money involved. You know what I mean? As long as there's money to be made, those fights are going to happen. They're going to continue. And I don't care what the WBC will sanction half of them. Look at half of the mismatches they sanction anyway.
Gotcha. D-Style Boxing, thank you so much. He says, subscribe to the Ringside Reporter, hit that like button, and share the video. Yes, sir. Maestro, do you think the WBC is sincere here in their concern about allowing these retired boxers to fight? And do you think that they will have an impact with their statement and urging these commissions to be more stringent with the protocol in the process of doing the medicals and such for the fighters? Oh, he's having an issue with his mic. D-Style, why don't you go ahead?
Well, I think the WBC is full of shit. If they cared about old farts stepping into the ring, they would have been giving belts to Tyson and Roy Jones. Okay, but they were quick to give those guys belts. Who knows if they charge them a sanction if you're not, right? If they can make a buck out of you, they're going to do it. And Eric said it. It's about the allure, right? And we talked about this offline, Beeb, all the charity work they do, and they have these conferences and all these, get-togethers and invite fighters over and all this to say that look at us, we're doing all these great things, like that. It's all for show, because it doesn't matter all the other things you do. Okay, I'm glad you give to charity and all that, but your job, okay, is to be a sanctioning body. That is your job, and you're not good at it. And you're not doing it the way you're supposed to do it. You're not taking part of the checks and balances that boxing should be. Instead, you're getting involved in promotion when you shouldn't. Okay? All those nice little pretty belts, you get involved in the Mayan belts and all this other shit, okay, doesn't mean anything to me. Okay? Yes, you do a lot of great things. Oh, okay. Oh, look, they had this one event and they're helping, kids that are disabled. I'm glad you are, but me, okay, if I don't do my job and I just spend time, on my free time, I give away to charity and stuff like that, my boss isn't going to care. I would get fired, okay? WBC, okay, keep doing all those great things, but at the end of the day, do your fucking job, okay? That's what you should be doing. Where was Mauricio Suleiman before the fight? Was Mauricio Suleiman anywhere to be found? Was he protesting the obvious fact that this dude, Holyfield, should not have been fighting? In fact, New York State Athletic Commission, more than a decade ago, denied Holyfield the license. Did they sanction any Holyfield fights after that? I don't know that off the top of my head, but they probably did. Okay? How many times did WBC just not giving a shit? Well, it's time for them to just do your fucking jobs, okay? Okay, stop trying to virtual signal, because I fucking hate virtual signaling, okay? Oh, look at us! We're like saying, well, we can't do like Holyfield box is not really that high of a bar. It just isn't. Okay? So, I'm not buying. I'm selling.
Got you. Shout out to Jamie Nieto. Thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. He said, the way Plant dipped when Canelo was about to throw that hook is going to be trouble. Canelo throws his hook at different angles and Plant is open to get hit. I agree wholeheartedly.
That pronunciation and the enunciation, though.
Is that good? Is that good?
Like, man.
Not Rosetta Stone paying off for the beat or what?
I love it. Love it.
I was expecting to hit Nieto, but it's like Nieto. Like,
must be them those Hispanic honey dips that the Beebs are messing with lately. Shit's rubbing off. G Funky. What's going on, brother? So what do you think about the WBC stepping in and talking to the commissions about this situation, allowing these senior citizens to fight?
Well, I say this. Talk is cheap. Talk is real cheap, Let's see if these motherfuckers are going to do something, which I highly doubt. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree with everything that's been said already about the WBC. They're full of shit. But, not just them, but I mean, the whole thing, man. All of boxing needs to completely be shaken up, man. These fights shouldn't be happening, man, especially when you see a guy like that. I mean, if there was ever a fighter who lost a round to the mitts, it was Holyfield in that session there that we seen before the fight happened. It was very concerning, and like I said, I'm a Holyfield fan, so I didn't want to see him go out like that. But unfortunately, the fight happened, and it's all because of money. You know, Oscar got sick, so they had to have somebody step in, and unfortunately, they picked Holyfield, a guy who he just doesn't have it anymore. You know, so I mean, I don't think they'll be serious about it, man. I just don't. They say a lot of things, they never do it. So it's just going to be the same bullshit, different day, until they take a lot of these things seriously and something happens. I mean, I don't know what it's going to take. This type of garbage is going to happen, man. And you know, I think a lot of it has to do with promoters and things like that not making fights, and so like all that stuff. It all plays into it, man. That's why they want to see these old guys come back and fight, because they're not afraid. You know, they'll come back and fight. They don't care. Um, I mean, boxing really needs a shakeup, man. And there should be no way guys like Holyfield, like I could see like guys who continue to fight, like a Hopkins. You know, he fought all the way till he was, I believe, 51. But you know, he never took a break. So he was still working out. He was still in shape. Like there's a big difference. You know, Holyfield was gone for a long time, and he tries to come back. I
It
don't.
was
I think it
almost
needs to be.
60.
Yeah, I think it needs to be stopped, but unfortunately, it's not going to happen, man. If there's money involved, they're going to keep it rolling, man.
Got you.
Estamos viejo el güey. Retire.
Dave, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts?
Oh man, it's interesting that you bring this up because I actually was trying to get an interview with Damon Feldman, the promoter of that. I have a history with him, and so just to give him in his defense, he's been doing this for a very long time. Over 20 years, he staged things like Danny Bonaducci. Maybe you guys remember that televised fight, or
I do.
Tanya Harding. I mean, he's had a whole slew of celebrities that go in there. He's kind of was the birth of the whole celebrity thing. Now, he booked this thing with Riddick Bowe way before Holyfield came in as a replacement. Now, he bills himself as the WWE of boxing entertainment. So you got to take that, you know, with a grain of salt about what these fights really are. You know, he's basically alluding and telling you that they're staged events. And in fact, Paulie Malignaggi is making his return to the ring on that same card, fighting a radio personality, Corey B. If you knew anything that had happened at the last fight he staged he had a pie thrown in his face and he didn't do anything. If that didn't tell you what they were leading up to, right? These things are kind of farce, they're kind of comical, but he definitely responded on social media to the backlash because he pulled out Riddick Bowe from this event. It was swift and it was hard, and it came from all angles that Riddick Bowe, you know, people really thought this is the real deal. He's going to get in there and get hurt. He's going to take punches from a former NBA star. I mean, yes, I don't know what kind of gloves, 16 ounce, maybe even heavier than that, but they're punches nonetheless, right? And he responded, I think, appropriately by not putting himself in jeopardy, making his thing even more of a circus and pulling him out for Riddick Bowe's safety. So I'm happy about that. Now, going back to the WBC with their move, I think it's totally insincere. I think it's deflection. I think they're just basically trying to like divert your attention from what just went down with the Oscar Valdez failed substance and their whole decision that he's now going to be the face of clean boxing. He's going to volunteer. I mean, it's all BS. The WBC, I don't think they have good intentions. And going after these promoters like Damon Feldman, to be honest, man, you can't even bet on those fights. If that doesn't tell you something, you know, you can't bet on those things. They're not real. It's entertainment.
Gotcha. Maestro, you sorted out now?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, you go.
Y'all can hear me, right?
Yeah, you sound great.
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome. Apologies for everything. It's been crazy on this side, but crazier is the situation with the WBC. I got to agree with the whole panel. All of these guys are total clowns, and they clearly do not care about the sport in terms of a health and safety standpoint. As far as I'm concerned, this is all just last minute PR work. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the WBC allow Eric Morales to take on Danny Garcia here in New York City? Was that not the WBC?
That was WBC.
Correct. Yep. Was it not the WBC that more recently, flashback to 2 weeks ago, allowed Valdez, despite getting popped for something that the organization that they chose to do their anti-drug testing, despite the fact that Valdez failed that test, did they not allow him to keep his title, defend his title, and fight under their sanction? They did, right?
Correct.
All right. So these guys are total clowns. And this is clearly a cleanup attempt. They're trying to clean up their image. It's not working with this panel. I don't think it's going to work with most boxing fans. And probably the most unfortunate thing is that that's still the most prestigious belt in boxing. That's how sad it is. They're still heads and shoulders above the other sanctioning bodies as far as I'm concerned, especially the WBA. But even the IBF, I mean, look at the IBF's rankings. They got some of the worst rankings out there. So that's that. And I chipped away when I was going to talk about Caleb Plant. So I just want to spend 30 seconds talking about that.
Go ahead. Yeah. Jump. Go ahead.
Caleb Plant proved yet again that his mouth is much bigger than his bite, to borrow one of his phrases, or his bark, that is. He's got the biggest disparity between talent and talking in the sport of boxing. And as far as I'm concerned, it was entertaining, but that was not Canelo getting clapped. That was not Canelo getting smacked. That was Canelo getting lightly touched and responding the way he should. So we'll get into the breakdowns of that later. I know you will, Joe, closer to the fight. But as far as I'm concerned, if I thought Caleb Plant wouldn't go 8 rounds, now I don't think he goes 6.
Yeah, that was eye-opening, that exchange, for sure. For sure. Another interesting topic. News just came out this week. Dillian White versus Otto Wallin's been announced for October 30th in London. Now, to me, this is a very intriguing fight. I think this is a possible banana skin fight for Dillian White. Otto Wallin is almost 6'6". He's got very long arms, about a 78-inch reach. Very slick southpaw, crafty fighter. Gave Tyson Fury some trouble. He beat Dominic Brazil soundly, so he definitely has some boxing skills. White's a minus 333, and Wallin's a plus 240. I think Wallin's live here. I think this could be a possible slip up, a miscalculation from Matchroom. What do you guys think? G, what do you think of this fight? And do you think that Wallin is live and he's primed for the upset here?
Well, Beeb, when you and I agree on live dogs, things happen, baby. Magic happens, and I'm agreeing with you right here, man. Wallin is definitely a live dog here. This is just my opinion. Some people might disagree, but I've been saying this for a long time about Dillian White. I've just never thought much of this guy. In my opinion, he's just not that good. I feel like he's very overrated, and that's why I picked Povetkin to beat him the first time, and it happened. But yeah, I think Wallin is a dangerous fight for him, man. He's a southpaw, and he knows how to sneak that left hand in there, man. He knows what he's doing, and I think he's definitely a live dog. Anybody out there looking to make some money, hey, drop a little bit on Wallin here. Would you say he's a plus 240, Beeb? Oh,
plus 240, yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it, and twice on Sunday, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. Maestro, what do you think of this matchup, brother?
I got to agree with G Funky. I haven't really ever been impressed by Dillian White. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he was losing in the rematch to Derek Chisora before the referee kind of got in there and bailed him out. He lost really badly in his first fight with Alexander Povetkin, and I can see him getting outboxed here. Definitely.
Absolutely. Eric, what do you think of this fight? Is this a possible upset the apple cart type fight for White, or do you think he should win?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a good fight. It's definitely a good fight in the sense that, it's a winnable fight for Wallin, and if he's a plus 240, then yeah, why not? Why not take him in that? But, I have more trouble with the actual fight itself. I mean, I have more trouble with why Eddie Hearn hasn't gotten him a big money fight yet. And he's been with him forever. And Dillian White, he had a chance to move on to the PBC. Because his contract ended with Hearn. He re-upped with Matchroom. At one point, he had a chance to move on. He should be having much bigger fights than Otto Wallin right now. Otto Wallin is all wrong for him because he's dangerous for him. it's a fight that he should win, but it's a fight that he could lose. It can't be for that much money. I mean, why not fight? Why hasn't this guy gotten a marquee guy yet? You know, and I get that Wilder's tied up. I get that Fury's tied up. I understand all that, but there's other guys out there, and the way this guy has been his entire career, it's like they mismanage him. He just gets fed guys, you know, like a Wallin or whatever, that are tough guys that nobody wants to fight, but he never gets those really big names.
Gotcha. D, what do you think? Do you think that Wallin is live here?
Let me tell you something, man. Of course he's live. I mean, that even if you think Dillian White's going to win, nobody could deny that Wallin, like whatever people call him, okay, is a live dog. Okay, there's no doubt in my mind about that. Let's just hope they can actually check his fucking gloves this time, okay? Because you want to talk about glove gate, that's a real glove gate. The gloves that never got checked. That's a real glove gate.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's hope that the glove inspector is allowed to, for the other team, is allowed to actually look at the glove this time. Okay? But that aside, I actually do think Dillian White's going to win now. I think Dillian White will stop him late. Okay. Because I don't think Dillian White's a better fighter than Tyson Fury. I think Fury would embarrass Dillian White if they ever fought. But Dillian White is a harder puncher than Fury. Okay? He will land that hook at some point, and I don't think Wallin is going to be able to take it, to be honest with you. Timber, probably knock him out middle or late in the fight.
Gotcha. Dave, what do you think of this matchup, man? Do you like this fight?
I do like this fight, yeah. And I'm going to be on the Otto Wallin train because I think he's just a couple of big wins from getting another title shot. You know?
The train a coming.
He's a live dog, absolutely a live dog. The way he handled and kind of shook up Tyson Fury, I'm on board with Otto Wallin pulling an upset here.
Well, I hear those odds. The first thing that popped in my head was the OJs. Money, 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 money.
I see a train coming
yeah.
from Sweden.
So more news came out this week. Our old friend Mike Coppinger said sources say that Ryan Garcia's comeback fight could be this fall against Jojo Diaz, right?
Man.
So my question to the panel is Ryan Garcia and Jojo Diaz, are they both avoiding Devin Haney? Because both of these guys were mentioned as potential opponents for Devin Haney. Devin Haney's been calling out both guys. Devin Haney does have the WBC title. Are they avoiding him? And if they end up fighting in the fall, should the winner fight Devin Haney? Go ahead, D-Star. You got your hand up.
That's right. I learned to do this in school. No, but I just want to say this. Of course, people were avoiding Devin Haney. Like I think that's like the most. We're not going to do ourselves any favor if we pretend that there isn't, like, unless you think Devin Haney is the most unlucky dude in the world, right? I mean, you have to kind of concede at the very least that these guys, like, we could safely say they're not going out of their way to try to fight the guy. You know what I mean? Like they're not. Like, that needs to be said. That's how I personally feel. It doesn't mean they're scared of him or something. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm saying. But I question. I'm sorry. I heard from a source that they might be fighting in the fall. Doesn't mean anything to me. If it doesn't happen, he used the word might. If it does happen, I told you. Means nothing. We all speculate that. Any one of us could have tweeted that out. Any one of us, because we are all speculating that's the fight that's going to happen next. With or without connections. So spare me, okay? Now, what I will say is this, in fairness to Jojo Diaz specifically, okay? I honestly feel Jojo just walked into this Devin Haney situation. Like he literally did. He volunteered to take on Fortuna last minute, beats Fortuna, and all of a sudden, hey, you got to fight Devin Haney next. You know what I mean? And if we're honest, man, I just don't think a lot of these guys want to fight Haney, you know, because he'll be a difficult guy to beat. Like at least that's they don't see that reward or whatever. Like you know what I mean? So I think in JoJo's mind, if he's honest, that's just my opinion, he feels that a fight with Ryan Garcia would be a bigger fight for me, etc. You know what I mean? I think that's how he feels about it. So are they avoiding Devin Haney? Look, man, I don't want to tippy-toe around this and pretend it's not happening. I'm going to say that, yes, they're avoiding Devin Haney.
Do you like the fight? If it's JoJo and
I love the
Garcia?
fight. Look, I'm not going to hold it against him forever if they don't fight Devin Haney, okay? Like,
Yeah.
if they fight each other, I love the fight. I think it's a great fight. But the question was, are they avoiding Devin Haney? And I would say that, yes,
Okay.
they are avoiding it. What the reason is debatable, but they're definitely avoiding the fight.
I agree. Maestro, what are your thoughts? Do you think JoJo and Ryan Garcia avoiding Devin Haney, and do you think that Ryan Garcia is ever going to fight for the full title?
I think they are avoiding him, Joe. The question, though, is like whether they are afraid of him or not. If that's the question, I don't think they're afraid of him. They just look at the risk for reward factor, which I think a lot of professional fighters do. And they do not see much reward in taking on the tremendous risk of a very talented young fighter that is probably not going to make them look very good if he fights them. So I do think that he is avoided. People laughed at me when I said that a few months ago, but I still think it. I don't think they're afraid of him, but the proof is in the pudding. He's got a title and he's struggling to find opponents. To me, that's a guy that's being avoided, Joe.
I got you.
Donatis got $1 million, ladies and gentlemen. He got $1 million to fight Devin Haney. Just think about that.
Yeah. Eric, you're a big Devin Haney fan. Do you think he's getting the shaft here?
Yeah, you know what? And I tell you, it's the JoJo Diaz and that fight right there. It's far from what I read. I believe it's an eliminator, correct? And the winner fight is supposed to fight Haney.
JoJo Diaz has the interim title, and I think that the winner could be ordered to fight Haney, but I'm not sure.
That's what it sounded like anyway.
Okay.
You know, but I think if it was up to Garcia or Diaz, they would fight Haney tomorrow. But it's not. It's up to the promoters. And the promoters, listen, man, who you got, you know, you have a guy like JoJo Diaz. You got a guy like Ryan Garcia. You know, Ryan Garcia is a big name. He's huge. Am I going to risk that on his next fight going to fight Haney? Or will I move up and wait and fight an easier guy? Or will I go fight an easier guy for a fringe title or for another title? Because then I could call myself the champion. You know what I mean? I can call my guy the champion. And then I could say, hey, Haney's running from us, blah, blah, blah. We can – listen, that's what it's about, man. They're going to keep this guy as long – it's not just every promoter is going to do this. Every promoter – nobody's going to try to put their fighter in harm's way. They're not interested in that. They're interested in making money, man. And that's where it is.
Yeah, but here's what I'll say. Linares is a Golden Boy fighter, and he got, I believe it's his career highest paid to fight Devin Haney. So there is money to be made to fight Devin Haney. Like,
yeah, but Linares isn't Garcia. The upside for Linares and the upside for Garcia, when you look at it long term, there's a big, big difference.
Yeah, Garcia's got options. Gee, yeah. I see you nodding your head, man. What's your take on this whole situation?
I agree a lot with Eric just said. This is boxing at its finest. Boxing as usual, playing the politics, keeping shit in house, and that's what's fucking up the game. I mean, we all know that. We've been talking about this for a long time. This is what's destroying boxing. They're not allowing these fights to happen. I've always said this, and I'm always going to continue to say this because I've grew up with fighters. I've seen the way fighters prepare for fights. These guys aren't afraid of anybody, okay? People, I mean, that's contrary to popular belief out there in YouTube, but I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. I know. Like I said, I've been around fighters, okay? These dudes will fight anybody you ask them to fight. You know, if there was no bullshit promotion, cross the street, all this nonsense, if there was like a schedule like other sports, these fights would be happening, man. These dudes are not afraid. That's just the way it is. This is just boxing politics at its finest, trying to make money. Now I want to say this. I do feel sorry for Haney because he is trying to get fights and they're not happening for him. And I want to say this, man. I like Ryan. I do. But he's pissing me the hell off, man, with what's going on. He had himself a good win earlier this year against Luke Campbell where he gets dropped, he gets up, comes back and knocks the guy out. That's impressive, for a young fighter to do that. Then he goes away with mental health. Okay, fine. You had your mental health stuff. Like, he should not be the guy to step in right away. Like, JoJo, whether he likes it or not, he's a hot name right now, 135, because he steps in. He beats Javier Fortuna, who was a tough guy. So I feel like Ryan shouldn't even be involved in any of this shit right now. Like, he should be taking a back seat. Like, motherfucker, you took yourself out of the game, Take a back seat. Let these other guys get things going. You work your way back in, But again, this is boxing politics. Just like Eric said, Ryan is a big name. He's got a lot of followers. He's got a lot of fans. He almost sold out the Anaheim place where he fought last time against Fonseca. There was a lot of people there to see this kid. So they see potential money, big fights with him. So that's what this really is, man. And it sucks. I don't like it, but until something changes in the sport, this is going to continue to fucking happen, man.
I think
but he, let me say this. So I get the whole, like, fighters aren't scared of fighters. Like, they don't, of course, fighters don't get that, like, fear of altercation, like, or throwing down with somebody, right? But they do have concerns about losing to somebody, losing O's. They do have concerns about that. I think that's very evident. I'm sorry. I do think there's guys that they'll rather not fight, or they're not in a rush to fight. Like, I do believe is a thing. And what I will say is, look, Oscar De La Hoya and even Golden Boy's own matchmaker told us that they told Canelo, we don't want you to fight Lara. That's what they told. Canelo said, I don't give a fuck. I want to fight him. And the fight happened. So at some point, we need to, at the very least, hold fighters accountable. We need to be able to say, yo, you need to do more to try to make this fight, not give them a pass. And I'm not going to give JoJo and Ryan a pass. I'm not going to hate them for it. I'm still going to watch their fight. I think it's an awesome fight. Okay. But I am going to say you guys definitely are avoiding Devin Haney. That I will say. And hopefully that type of pressure can pressure them to actually do these fights.
I think they both see.
I think that was a bad comparison, in my opinion.
I think they both see, though, each other as an easier, more lucrative fight than Devin Haney. And that's kind of what the problem is. JoJo would rather fight Ryan Garcia than Devin Haney because he thinks it's an easier fight and he thinks it's a more lucrative fight. And I think the same is true with Ryan Garcia as it relates to JoJo Diaz. He sees JoJo Diaz as a guy who's coming up from 130, who's older, who's probably slower, who he thinks he can beat easier, and who's going to make more money for him. I think really that's what it boils down to.
I'm going to go to Dave, but then I want to hear G-Funky's rebuttal to D-Style after we go to Dave. Dave, go ahead. What are your thoughts on this matchup between JoJo and Ryan?
Well, I actually like that. I've been following the banter going back and forth on social media between Ryan and the other guy, and I think it's pretty good. I like it. I like that fight a lot, and I'll tell you, I don't think that either of these guys are
JoJo
afraid.
Diaz, you mean? JoJo?
Yeah, JoJo Diaz. I don't think either of them are afraid of Devin
Other
Haney.
guy. I got you. Go ahead.
I blanked out there. Yeah, but I don't think they're afraid of Devin Haney at all. I mean, I don't think either of them fear or think they're going to get knocked out by Devin Haney in the least bit. But what I do think is that Ryan's ego, probably like other great fighters who are the A side, and let's just be clear that I really do think that in most negotiations, Ryan is going to be the A side because of what he's already commanded. Because like you said, he's already come close to selling out a stadium. All right. He is definitely going to be the A side in the Devin Haney negotiation. And maybe he dislikes it. His motivation will be different from, again, I forgot his name. His motivation is probably based on the fact that he doesn't want to share the big piece of the pie. He dislikes the guy so much that he does not want to give Haney the big fat paycheck, because anybody that fights Ryan Garcia is going to get a big fat paycheck as well. So why put yourself at risk, like you said, in a snoozer of a fight, a complicated fight, maybe a fight that's not fan friendly? Why do that to yourself? Ryan may not be concerned about collecting all these titles. He just may be concerned about, what's the right fight for me at the moment, the glory and the fame that he's going to get from each individual fight.
Really quick, Dave, who was Ryan Garcia's last opponent?
Fortuna.
Luke Campbell, right? No, Ryan Garcia.
I'm sorry.
Luke Campbell, right?
I'm all scrambled, guys. By the way, I'm suffering from insomnia, so
No,
that's why I'm
you're fine.
scrambled.
But he fought David Haney fought Linares, correct?
Yes, great fight.
Okay. Well, let's do a test. What's the bigger bag against who? Who do you think made more money, Linares or Luke Campbell?
Linares or Luke Campbell.
The
I
answer
don't
is
know.
Linares.
I don't know who made the bigger prize.
Guys that fight David Haney, right? Right or wrong, the zone's overpaying, whatever the reason is. You make more money if you fight Devin Haney. Those are just the facts. That's not D-Style's opinion. Those are just the facts. These guys are running out of reasons not to fight Devin Haney. I'm just telling you that
there's
right
a strong argument that Devin Haney is overpaid.
But that's irrelevant though. Like if you fight him, you still get paid, right? If you get contracted with someone who's getting overpaid, but you're going to get paid more than you ever made, does it matter that they're overpaid? No, right? So all I'm saying is, just to put it out there, this is not my opinion. Mm-hmm. Guys that fight Devin Haney just make more money than the guys that have fought Ryan Garcia. That's just the empirical fact. And I want to make sure everyone understands that.
I want to make sure that I understand this. Are you saying that and if you look not just at the last opponents, but let's just say at the last 2 or 3 opponents, that Devin Haney's opponents get more than Ryan Garcia? That because one could say that that's also because he actually faces a higher caliber of opponent up until at least the Luke Campbell fight. No,
I think it's the zone money too, though. To be fair,
Luke Campbell and Linares are very comparable, brother.
Yeah, that's true. What I mean? I'm just saying, if we're looking at that last fight, I just don't know if there's any more data on it than that last fight. That's my only question. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just asking.
Gotcha.
Yeah. DAZN has publicly made statements in the last month that they are going to reduce the budget in the U.S. fights on their DAZN USA platform. So that may not be the case going forward. And I definitely wouldn't invest all that money in Devin Haney if he's not selling out stadiums. Yeah. I mean, what's his gate? What kind of gate does he bring to the table? I don't think he could even sell out his home city now of Las Vegas.
Gee, I want to hear your rebuttal to D-Style's last point. I think you had something to say before Dave went.
I would just say this. I understand the Canelo and Lara situation. Oscar did not want him to have that fight. And he said, no, I want the fight because the dude walked up on me and called me out in front of everybody. And they made the fight happen. Canelo gets a lot of credit for that because Lara is a guy that a lot of people weren't trying to fight at that time. But we also have to remember is that Canelo, at that point of his career, even though he was just kind of starting out becoming, of a star, he's much bigger name at that point than a Ryan Garcia and, a Jojo Diaz. So for him to call his own shots, it's more likely that someone they would say okay to Canelo than someone like a JoJo or a Ryan. They see that they could probably sell out an arena in Southern California if they put those two together. So, I just don't think that's a good comparison. Like these guys can't call their shots like a Canelo could at that point.
Got you. Well, let's move on.
I don't agree with that, but it's okay.
Interesting story this week with Deontay Wilder adding Don House to his training team. This is a gentleman that has trained fighters. He trained Bermane Stiverne. He's been a cut man in the UFC. I believe in Caleb Plant's fight with Usyk, he was the cut man in that fight as well. Interesting storyline here, though, is in an interview when Bermane Stiverne was preparing for Chris Arreola, and when they fought for the WBC vacant heavyweight title, Don House was being interviewed at one of the press conferences, after one of the press conferences, I should say. And he told the interview when he was asked about Deontay Wilder, he said Deontay Wilder had a padded record. And he even called out Deontay Wilder's last opponent at that time, which was Malik Scott. And he accused Malik Scott of taking a dive. And he said the fight was disgraceful. Lo and behold, 8 years later, Now he's in the camp. So Deontay Wilder always talks about loyalty. He talks about people going behind his back, people trusting his inner circle and having to get rid of people in his inner circle because of things they say or do. But now he's bringing this guy in who was basically very disparaging towards him, and not only him, but Malik Scott as well. So will this help? And is this a little bit of hypocrisy on Deontay Wilder's part? Maestro, I want to go to you first because I know you got some interesting things to say about this.
Well, number one, Deontay Wilder is a very low intelligent person, so I don't even think he's able to analyze everything that you just said or understand it. But let's just pretend that he does and that he is capable of, reconciling the kind of, if we call it, maybe hypocrisy is too harsh of a word, but inconsistency in his actions. I think that psychologically it's a sign that he's grasping, man. He's a few weeks away from the fight. He's grasping at things that are going to help him against Fury because, guys, the writing's on the wall. Fury outboxed him coming off of a fat camp, got off the canvas after taking his best shot, and in the rematch, whooped his ass from pillar to post. I don't think there were very many positive moments for Deontay Wilder in that fight. He landed a couple shots on Fury. Fury rode them and returned fire and knocked his ass out. Subsequently, it was the Wakanda suit. It was the disloyal trainer. It was my trainer spiked my water. It was white privilege. It was, what were all the, I don't have time, Joe, to fill the rest of this show with the litany of excuses. The litany of excuses that Deontay Wilder made following that fight. So apparently the king of the African Americans, if not all black people across the world, the king of Wakanda, is attempting to return to his rightful place as the heir to the heavyweight throne, as the not only heir apparent to Muhammad Ali, but the guy who surpassed Muhammad Ali, not only in in-ring accomplishments, but in the adversity he's faced outside of the ring. So, you're talking about a guy who's faced more adversity outside of the ring than Muhammad Ali. What can I say, Joe? Clearly he can surpass potentially another disloyal black man, another crab in the bucket. I forgot that one. He called Kenny Bayless a crab in the bucket. He's been facing adversity his whole life. What's another disloyal black man? What's another a crab in the bucket, so to speak? So, I'm very flabbergasted by this, to be honest, but I just think the writing's on the wall for another Fury KO, and I'll leave it at that.
Gotcha. Eric, what are your thoughts, brother, on this move by Deontay Wilder?
I think it's brilliant. He brings this guy in who says, he had a padded record. Malik Scott, former guy he knocked out. So when he loses against Fury again for the third time, he's going to be able to blame Don House. He's going to be able to blame Malik Scott because Malik Scott wanted revenge because he got knocked out. So, and Don House was, talking trash about him. He'll have a billion built-in excuses because he can't wear that same suit again. So he can't use that. He's got to wear something a lot lighter and a lot, less heavy, can't be 40 pounds again. So he's got a whole lot of built-in excuses already. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant thing.
Gotcha. Dave, what do you think about this move?
It's too little, too late, man. It's this fight is just right around the corner. There's nothing that's going to save him from a bad performance except himself. Too little, too late. And by the way, Bermain, he was a nasty guy. Like when we'd see him in fights in Vegas, man, he just the last thing he wanted to do was talk to people like us.
Gotcha. Gee, what are your thoughts on this move? Is it going to have any impact, if at all?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to have much of an impact, but it is very peculiar to put a guy on your team who's said these things about you, and you're really big on loyalty, But I mean, it doesn't surprise me from what's been coming from the Wilder camp and Wilder himself over the last year or so. It's very surprising, but it'll be. I have a feeling if he loses, it'll be like Eric said, like it'll be just another built-in excuse at the end of the day. And I do believe he will lose this fight, but I want to say to you guys out there, I don't. I'm usually pretty good at predicting fights, but for some reason in this whole Fury Wilder thing, I've gotten every fight wrong. All right, so I mean, you can take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but I am rolling with Fury here, and I don't think this guy is going to make a difference.
I have a sneaky suspicion that D-Style is going to say that this is going to help Deontay Wilder get that KO, but I'm just waiting. I'm waiting to hear from D-Style.
Thank you so much, Alexis LL, with the $2 super chat. Hola, Roundtable. Thank you so much.
Pronunciation. Press.
D, go ahead, brother.
First of all, I get the sarcasm. I do. But Wilder's not smart enough to know what Beeb just said. Come on. Okay, that's like super hating. I'm just saying.
Is it?
Right.
I mean, the guy said that the guy said that Fury had egg weights in his glove. You got to be a pretty big dumbass to say that.
No. Okay.
What about the Wakanda suit?
I think religious people are delusional. There's a lot of smart religious people. That doesn't mean like being delusional doesn't mean it's not a very smart person could be delusional, right? No, I'm not saying he's a real smart person. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying, like, I'm not saying he's a scientist, right? But I don't think he's dumb. Like, I don't think he's a retard or something. I don't. I'm sorry. I think he's competent. Like, I remember the Wilder that went to the Olympics and did interview. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like just I mean, come on. Like, I get that. I get the frustration, Milcar, of the accusations. I get throwing Mark Breland under the bus, but if you don't become a parody of it, trying to make a point is all I'm saying. Like, at the end of the day, okay?
I legitimately believe that Deontay Wilder is a dumbass.
Well, look, that's your opinion.
I'm not trolling. That's no cap.
Okay,
I mean, the guy said that a 40-pound suit cost him the fight. Flash forward a couple days, then his water was spiked. Flash forward a couple days after that, I mean, it was more than a couple. I mean, he did get his head. He did get a dent.
Athletes,
right? No, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. He's not dumb. I'm sorry. I take it back. He got a dent put in his head because Fury obviously was wearing egg weights. It's not his fault he's saying this stuff.
I don't know.
He got a dent put in his head.
I think he's capable. I think he's smarter than you make it out. That's what I'll say, right? But that's. I'll say this, okay? So he hires this dude that said something at one point, right? I get it. Like, basically accused of Malik Scott of throwing the fight, right? Pretty much what he did. And I think we all, at least I feel, the fight was it's suspicious to say at best, okay? But what I will say is this: it's irrelevant, okay? And I hope Fury isn't as confident as you are, Milcar. Like you're not going to see like Fury can just walk in there and just beat the fuck out of him and leave or some shit. Like no, like this. I'm being very serious when I say this. Regardless of what your opinion of Wilder the person is, okay? Wilder the fighter is a very dangerous individual with the most devastating right hand I've seen in decades in the heavyweight division. Okay? And if he lands flush, I don't care. Oh, he did it before. The brain doesn't always react the same way. He can knock out Tyson Fury. And we know that because he's knocked him down and hurt him twice. Okay? So what I'll say is this. Don't be too confident. Like, I'm picking Fury too, but let me just tell you something. I've never gotten a Fury fight right, and I never got in a fight in this fucking trilogy right either. Okay? So, like, the fact that I'm picking Fury, I don't even know what that means. All right? But, like, I'm telling you guys right now, there's too much stock being put in the second fight. There's too much stock in it. Do I think he was drugged? No. Do I think Fury cheated? No. But he hurt him in the third round, and he just wasn't the same for the rest of the fight. That wasn't Wilder, the fighter from the round 3 on. That was a dude off balance that Fury still couldn't stop.
You mean it was?
And if he doesn't throw his equilibrium off in the third round again, he's not going to stop him. And that threat's going to be there till the end of the fight. And you know it is. But people are so angry at the accusations. They're so mad at they're mad at the LDBC, and they're mad at the Dante's Boxing Nations, and Fanon said this, and you guys are getting mad at what's being said, but you're forgetting the fact that this dude's a devastating puncher that can knock any man on this planet out, including your dude, Tyson Fury, regardless of what he said, because what he said and what he's done and what the accusation he made means nothing. And you all know you're looking at the roof of the damn church because I'm preaching.
Well, D-Style.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
No, D-Style seems to forget that this is a guy who selected JD's to be his lead trainer for multiple championship fights. Was that intelligent?
It doesn't matter, Milcar. Does it matter? How does that disprove anything I just said?
No, I'm just saying he's not a guy who said a lot of.
We get
smart.
it.
Look, when
you
a guy
don't like him personally. It doesn't matter once the bell rings at all.
Right, and it doesn't matter that House is going to be in his trainer, is going to be in his corner. Sorry, as his trainer, because Fury's got his number. You're going to see that on the Sunday morning following this fight, and I just want everyone to remember this energy that D-Style's bringing to this conversation. And I want y'all to compare it to the very low energy version. This guy's gonna be looking like Dr. Ben Carson the day after this fight. Very low energy.
This guy's never low energy, brother. Never low energy.
Oh,
is it 100% of my car? You're gonna say 100% again? Let's go.
If the fight happens, it's 100% that Fury's gonna beat him.
That's it. He lost. You jinxed the fight.
The old 100%.
Gotcha. All right. Eric, you got a bounce?
Yeah, I got a bounce here. So I do apologize for that, but it was great being on here, man, especially with all you guys. I always love these things. But catch me on Twitter at Ringside73, and of course, catch Ringside Reporter every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So
thanks.
Catch you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Peace out, brother.
Salute, Eric.
Be good,
Thank
brother.
you guys.
Eric. All right.
Joe, we got to get your take on this, though. Bro.
All right. So
let us do it.
Like I said, I don't think that it's going to have much of an influence. I am picking Tyson Fury to win this fight. I've seen and heard all of the things Deontay Wilder has said. I've seen the training footage, and I just don't see an improvement. Yeah, that punch is there, but anyone can land that punch and anyone can knock anyone out. But the fact of the matter is, are they going to do it? And if we have to look at the data, and in my opinion, I saw these guys fight each other for 19 rounds, and out of those 19 rounds, I gave Deontay Wilder 3 of those rounds. I don't think Deontay Wilder at 36 years old can automatically become a better fighter than he is. That doesn't mean that I think he's as bad as everyone says he is. There is the X factor of Fury. He's very hot and cold. His mentality, he's never defended this title. So we don't know his state of mind because, like I said before, he's very volatile, right? But with that being said, both of these guys are volatile. Both of these guys, have issues, I think, psychologically. But I think at the end of the day, I got to go with the skills pays the bills. And that is Fury. I think Fury is a much better fighter. I don't like the fact that Wilder is talking about putting on the weight again. I don't like the fact that he's getting underneath the bench and he's trying to show everyone how strong he is by pushing 330 pounds or whatever it is. But, you're going to be dealing with a guy who's 270, who's not going to be lying there and staying there and allowing you to push him. He's going to be pushing back. And the big difference in these two fighters is Fury's ability to fight on the inside and use his weight. That is always going to be a factor when these two guys fight, because you got a guy like Fury who could beat him on the outside and who could definitely beat him on the inside. And I think he has a better chance of winning more clearly if he brings the fight to the inside. And I suggested that was what he was going to do in the second fight. Now,
He wasn't allowed to, though.
What, the second fight?
Yeah, Kenny Bayless wouldn't let him do it.
Well, again, that's where he landed a lot of his big punches up close on the inside, and the body shots were taking their toll. And, he did get some good shots in on the inside, and he was wearing Deontay Wilder out by leaning on him on the inside, in spite of what Kenny Bayless did, in my opinion.
What do you mean Kenny Bayless didn't? It's not Greco-Roman wrestling. It's boxing. Of course he's going to break it up when he's trying to grapple and judo throw the dude.
He was literally breaking up inside fighting after.
It looked like Andre the Giant, like mauling dudes. So I'm like, well, he can't be doing that. Break it up.
If it looked like there might be a clinch, he was smacking Tyson Fury.
That's okay. You can't clinch anyway. You should be clinching anyway. Okay, you should be clinching anyway.
If you have one arm free, you're supposed to be allowed to work.
When AJ clinches, AJ, he's always holding. When Fury does it, Skate Bayless wouldn't let him hold. I'm just saying.
I see where you're going with that, but I'm just saying, I hope the referee's going to be fair and allows inside fighting to the maximum. I'm not saying he should be able to clinch. I don't like clinching. You know this. But
I still think Fury did do a good amount of work on the inside in that second fight. But again, in full disclosure, I did not expect Fury to stop him in that second fight. I just thought he would, beat him on the inside. So I'm not going to pretend that I thought that he was going to knock him out. But I
called for the stoppage. I did.
Yeah, I did not. I did
not expect that to happen.
I did not expect it. I'm not going to cap and say I did. Jamie Nieto says, I have Tyson winning this fight pretty easily again. People are getting excited about staged pad work. That's going to go out the window when he gets hit. Thank you so much, Jamie, for the super chat. Like I said, I don't think we're going to see a better version of Deontay Wilder, but I do think that there could possibly have been some issues. I think he did have some injuries going into the second fight. And he possibly will go the distance in this fight, but at the end of the day, I just think Fury's the more versatile, better fighter, and I think that's going to tell the story here. So that's my take on the whole thing. Okay, so let's get into this one now. Boxing judge Stephen Blee, who scored the Valdez-Conceição fight 117-110 for Valdez, issued an apology, and he also said that he's going to step away from judging any championship fights until he completes a training course in judging fights. I was on the Boxing Voice this morning, and I talked to Mauricio Suleiman, and I brought this up, and he applauded Stephen Blee. But I asked Mauricio, I said to him, is this something that you may consider, suspending these guys and having them go through a training program when they turn in a scorecard like this? And he said, well, we do training. We have people scoring these fights remotely, and we collect all the data, and there's a line at the bottom of each round where they could check off decisive, close, moderately close, or whatever. And he says they collect all that data to, evaluate how good their judges are. So he didn't really say that he would mandate suspending judges temporarily who turn in these types of scorecards, but he did say that he did have a training protocol in place. Do you guys think that Stephen Blee was sincere in his apology, or do you think he just made it because of the backlash from the press and also because of all the negativity that was surrounding this fight because of the Valdez positive drug test? Maestro, go ahead.
Look, you know what it reminds me of? There was a baseball game. I don't even remember who was pitching or who the teams were, but I do remember what happened. There was a guy who was pitching a no-hitter, and one of the umpires took the no-hitter away from him. And like the whole world saw, actually, it might have been a perfect game, actually, not even a no-hitter.
It was a perfect game, yeah.
It was a perfect game, right, G Funky?
Mhm.
And there was so much pressure on this guy. Apparently, he couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, he was just feeling the pressure that he came out and apologized. I think that it was definitely sincere, but I think that a lot of that sincerity was probably the result of criticism, social media, him seeing his name all over the place. I mean, most of the time we don't know who these referees are. They kind of, live in obscurity. And in this guy's case, he was all over social media because people were rightly so trashing his scorecard. So I commend him for doing it, but I don't really think that my opinion of him has changed all that much because he turned in a horrendous scorecard. And at the end of the day, I think that the WBC needs to start testing these judges for drugs. Why are they just testing the fighters? I like these guys to give, make them walk the line, make them like touch their nose and like recite the alphabet backwards and shit after they turn in these scorecards. Stick the breathalyzer in their mouth. You know what I mean? Why don't they put a syringe in their arm and see what kind of intoxicating substances they have used? Because when I see scorecards like that, the only thing I can think is that they were either drunk, high, or sleeping through the fight, or maybe on their cell phones.
Gotcha. D-Star, what are your thoughts?
Well, look, I got to commend the judge for, apologizing for a dreadful scorecard. That was dreadful. I don't think any one of the two guys wanted 117, 111, by the way. None of them did. But it did go to the home guy. I mean, it went to it was some home cooking, even though that's his adopted home of Valdez, but that's what it was, in fairness, at least with that scorecard it was. But people wonder why a lot of these cards are wide or whatever, right? I still believe, and I'm not saying it was the case in this specific case, that a lot of these judges front load their cards. And the reason they do that is they don't know how the second half of the fight's going to go, right? And if you feel like, so they front load the early rounds for Valdez, and then Valdez won the middle rounds, all of a sudden you have yourself a pretty wide scorecard, regardless of what happens in the last few rounds, right? So I think that's the issue. Now, he stepped away, whatever it is, you know what I mean? But I'll say this about judging in boxing. I don't want to be the negative Nancy or whatever. I don't want to be the dude that just tells everybody like that Santa isn't real. We're never going to fix scoring in boxing. Ever. Because it's a subjective sport. Okay? We're never going to fix it. Okay? There's always been, and there always will be, controversy on the scorecards. What the sport should instead look at is how can we, make it more probable that fights end by stoppage rather than going to the scorecard so much. The scorecard should only be the default that we go to if no one's able to knock anybody out. It's not supposed to be the norm, right? And there's a couple of things we could do. One, make sure that we have an engagement rule of some sort. Second, make sure that, we limit holding. So when a guy like Fury wants to be grappling and doing Greco-Roman, we're not going to let him. You know what I mean? We got to make sure that was a shot. But we got to make sure that, that they stay more engaged. Okay. That's what we need. Okay. We need more offense in the sport. And a lot of, boxing purists, I don't like rock 'em, suck 'em. I like it when guys are negative and just, fighting their back foot the whole time and avoid fighting and throw a jab here and there and I'll point the guy. Okay, you might like watching that, but the majority of people do not. And the ratings reflect that. The guys you see as pay-per-view stars reflect that. Okay, it's all reflective off of that. Okay, you've all been in houses watching fights where people are bored out of their fucking ass with fighters being too fucking negative. Okay, and it hurts the sport, and you know it does. Okay, so I think if we do that, or we take that approach, it will help us also. And I don't want to steal one of your ideas, B, but it is what it is. I don't think every 10-9 round is equal. I don't. I think there's some rounds that are extremely razor close, and it's a 10-point must, and I don't do even rounds. So I give it to somebody, right? That's a 10-9 to me. That if there was an option to do a 10 for the winner and 9.5 for the loser in rounds like that, I think that would help a lot. Also, we need an odd number of rounds because that would limit a lot of draws as well. So a 13th round of me, I would not be against it, but that's what I got.
There's another solution too, and it's AI. And I can draw the correlation with baseball. You can have a perfect strike zone in baseball. You know how you do it? You take the human element out of the equation. You just have literally computers determine balls and strikes. It's 100% accurate every single time. But people don't want to do it, again, because of the purists. You can do the same thing in boxing. You put some sensors in these gloves, remove the judging, figure out a different way that fighters win around, and we take the human element out of things and we remove the subjectivity. That's a possibility as well. But we just have to look at things in a different way.
Yeah. Gee, what are your thoughts on this apology? And do you think it was sincere? And do you think anything is going to change?
Well, I mean, I question whether it's sincere or not because, 117, 111 in that fight is a ridiculous scorecard. I feel like the fight could have went either way, but it didn't matter. It's not like he changed his score. It's not like he said, well, I rescored it and I had Consacao winning. Like that's not what happened. He still had Valdez winning, so the results don't change. So, I don't know. I feel like it was definitely something he wanted to do because of the backlash. Unfortunately, I agree with D-Style. There's always going to be controversial scorecards from judges because, it is subjective, which, I have my opinions on that. I feel like I always hear judges, and these are real judges. I've heard them say things like, well, I favor this or I favor that. You shouldn't be favoring anything, like that's not the way you should be going into a fight, judging a fight. So I favor this style or that style, like that's just bullshit in my opinion. But I agree. If we want to get rid of these bad decisions from these judges, why not just continue to make them fight till somebody quits or somebody gets knocked out? They used to do that in K1 back in the day. Like they would fight. I don't know how many rounds they fought, but if the judges had to fight even, the fighters kept their gloves on and they made them fight again, fight another round. I don't know. I'm open to all ideas, but until something changes, especially the 4 criteria, which, the judges go by, because unfortunately that does allow for people to be subjective and to favor certain things. Until something like that changes or whatever, we're going to continue to get the same stuff all the time. Guys that favor aggression, guys that favor, utilizing the ring and stuff like that. That's always going to be an issue with boxing, man, until the whole thing changes.
Dave, what do you think?
You guys made a couple of great points that I totally agree with. One is the integration of AI, instant replay type things. That's really important. But then again, that might change the way the fights are scored altogether. Are we going to go based on total punch output? Then it kind of goes back to Olympic style boxing. But I do want to see some integration of AI. I think that's a great idea. The other one is, why do we have even rounds? Draws. Like that's archaic. Why? Those are 2 great points. I do appreciate the judges' apology. Whether they caved or not to social media pressure is aside from the point. But this year has been particularly bad with egregious scoring. Recently, that PBC card where the WBA, there was an interim title, that guy Mikhail Fox. He was robbed blindly. It was practically the same scorecards, 117, 110, 117, 111. And just even recently, last weekend, I think there was a real dubious scorecard. I think these judges need to be recertified often. like maybe twice a year, every 6 months, because however it's done, it leaves too many judges with the power to, destroy a fighter's career, to take away a big, like this guy, Mikhail Fox. He's a journeyman who really deserved that title on PBC. So I think there definitely needs to be something. I agree with the WBC on that one.
Yeah.
You're right, Dave. This summer, we've had 3 bad scorecards from the judges with the PBC. Now, I'm not just singling out the PBC. Every promotional fight has bad scoring, but as of late, we had the Charlo Castaño fight, we had the Fox fight, and then we had the Jesus who got blatantly robbed. I mean, that was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Just past
a couple weeks
Saturday.
ago. Yeah. So, yep, it's terrible, man.
Thank you so much, Omar Rodriguez, for the super chat. He says, do you guys think a pre-fight meeting between judges and fighter to discuss how they score will help the issue? I don't think it's a bad idea. But here's my take on the whole thing. I believe that these judges should score the fight remotely in a room with a monitor where there's no sound, and they have the ability to see all these angles that we see at home. Because many times when I watch a fight live and then I go home and rewatch it on television, I score it totally differently. When I went to see that Andre Berto Victor Ortiz fight, I was there live at Foxwoods, and it looked like a much closer fight to me live than when I went home and watched it on the television, right? So that's one. So you put these guys in a room, you have them watch the fight on the monitor like the fans do, then they can see all the angles that we see. That way there's no issue of a fighter's back being to them. They can't see certain punches because the guy's on the other side of the ring and they're on one side of the ring. So I think that's one thing that could help these guys score the fight more effectively. Number 2, I would like to see 5 judges instead of 3. I think that would help avoid draws as well. And D-Style said that he thinks there should be an odd number of rounds. Yeah, I agree with that. There should be like a sudden death round if there's a 12th round, right? Just like in hockey, there's a sudden death overtime. Basketball, there's an overtime. Football, there's an overtime. There should be an overtime in boxing. Have these guys fight a 13th round to avoid a draw. And so that way you don't have a draw. And also, I think because this is such a big issue and it's been reoccurring too frequently as of late, I do believe that the sanctioning bodies do need to suspend these judges temporarily and have them undergo a training program. Because just like any other job in life, when I'm at my job or anyone else is at their job, they do something wrong, they get disciplined by their boss, whether it be a verbal, a written, whether you get suspended. You need to be pulled aside and talked to, and at the very least, get reinforcement training to enable you to do your job the way it's supposed to be done. So I think those things would be very helpful. And, Mauricio Suleiman did mention, like I said, what they are doing, but I'm not so sure if that's going to be enough, because to me, it doesn't seem as though what he's doing right now is holding these judges accountable. And I also asked him, did this gentleman apologize because of what you may have said to him? Did you have a conversation? He said, no, he did it on his own. We did not ask him to do so. So that in itself is troubling to me, because I think that someone from the sanctioning body had to have and needed to pull this guy aside and talk to him. He shouldn't have had to volunteer to do this himself. And I'm sure he did this because of the backlash and all the negativity surrounding this fight. I think he started feeling guilty, and not only guilty, I think he was embarrassed because how he was getting destroyed on social media. And I think he just tried to save face. So, that's just my opinion on the whole thing.
If I could say this, because there's going to be people saying, oh, you can't do a sudden death. I mean, these style, like they in the fight and they got to announce it, and then it's going to take forever. And look, only in boxing does shit take forever. Like when the football game's over, like it's 0, like we already know who the winner is. Okay, like basketball game's over, we know. Okay, like it's done immediately. Like figure skating, they got fucking judges. Guess what? We know the score immediately, and it's on a scoreboard and shit. And it's immediately. In boxing, they're like this. So what was that? 116. Well, what's the?
That's only when there's controversy, though. You ever notice sometimes when there's no controversy in a fight, they get that shit done right away.
The longer it takes, you know that somebody's getting boned. It always happens.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. So that's 116 plus 112. What does that equal?
These guys are still using paper to score the fights. They don't even have like a computer or a tablet or something.
It should be a tablet. You just press a button.
It should be like an app.
Yeah.
Like I use. I use an app to score the fight.
Ding ding! Round 12. The fight's over. Immediately, the ref is notified. It ended in a draw. Let them know it's going to be a 13th round. Okay, that's all it takes. It's not that hard.
Would you be in favor? Would you be in favor, Joe, of some kind of a hybrid solution to what you were saying? So, because, you know, if you had judges in a room somewhere without sound, in addition to judges at ringside?
That's not a bad idea. Maybe you could have 2 of them ringside and 3 of them remote.
I was just gonna say that.
That way you have all different. You have all
what,
different.
though? There has to be. They're watching the fight like this, though.
The tennis judges sit above the court. And
that's something. That's something Joe Cortez actually suggested that the judges sit in those types of seats that the tennis judges sit in, so they could look down on the ring, so they could see the whole ring.
I mean, that's the best vantage point.
That was actually a recommendation. So have 2 of the judges do that with those high seats, and have 3 of them score it remotely.
There you go.
Yeah. And like if there is controversy with the judges, ringside, then they go to the ones that were, isolated to kind of
So have the majority of the judges score it remotely, and those 2 judges that are in the ring score it with the high seats.
Check it out. I'm gonna let you get the super chat, but first, okay?
Thank you so much, Jamie Nieto. Love the round table. It's awesome to get everyone's opinion. Would love to hear more Canelo Plant if y'all have time. All right.
This is what I'll say, okay? Check it out. Look, I don't have an issue with Christina Poncher. Wilder should have answered her questions, you know what I mean? And I think she does a great job, okay? But when people say, oh, man, I never thought of that when she said that they should interview the judges after the fight. Yeah, we've been talking about that on YouTube for years, okay? I saw my video from like 7 years ago saying these motherfuckers need to be interviewed after the fight. They should take questions from the press after the fight. I don't want to hear, what are they too stressed or tired from scoring the fight or what? What is it? Because I don't know.
I think it's almost borrowed, D-Style, from the way that judges are treated in our legal system. It's like judges are not allowed to, give comments on their rulings in courts of law. I'm not saying I'm disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that's what I think it comes from. I mean, they're called judges.
I can only recall one time seeing a judge speak immediately after the fight, and it was one of the judges in the Pacquiao Marquez 3rd fight. And that wasn't like they put him up on the podium like they do the fighters after the fight. Like it was some guy, I forgot who the channel was, but they caught him in the casino. He was like eating dinner or something in one of the restaurants there, and they talked to him about it. Like that's the only time I ever remember seeing that happen.
I remember another one, G Funky, and I remember this because of how upset I was by the decision. It was a chick. I shouldn't even call her a chick. I'm sounding like your partner, Joe.
Yeah.
It was the lady, the very wonderful blind lady that scored the Holyfield Lewis fight for Evander Holyfield, the first one. I remember that they did kind of like an expose on HBO where they interviewed her, and she was giving all kinds of excuses about how for most of the fight her angle was bad and she was seeing Lennox's back and not his front, and then they were showing her camera angles where she could clearly see everything that was happening to the fight. You remember this, right, Joe?
Yes.
Was that Jarman Manning? That was her name? Or?
I don't remember her name, but I do remember the circumstances. Much like I didn't remember the perfect inning situation that I brought up about baseball.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Does anybody think open scoring would be beneficial? Recently, Gabe Flores he took a real beating a couple weeks ago. Gabe Flores took a real beating. And there used to be states that would allow you to see the first 4 rounds, right? You see, if every round, like in football, you know the score at every quarter. If
You know
these
what?
fighters, if these fighters and their trainers knew the scorecard up in the 9th round and saw that you're out of this fight, I mean, there's no way you're winning unless you
They've
get a
tried it
knockout.
before, but there's
This
been a
is
lot
the
of bad
problem.
unintended consequences due to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't like it. Like
There's
the
2
last time-
problems. Yeah. Go,
I guess
I
if a
just-
guy's ahead, then he starts coasting, and then it makes the fight unentertaining.
Or a guy can quit.
I kind of see the pros and cons to it. I'm not really against it if you did it like after every, like D Style said, every 4 rounds maybe. So you do it.
Well, no, well,
Well, that's one thing. The other problem too, though, is that the delusion that someone can score that knockout is never going to go away. I mean, you could have a 12-round fight where the guy's lost 10 of 11 rounds going into the 12th. And if his trainer is delusional and thinks that his fighter can somehow score a knockout, the fact that there's open scoring isn't going to make him throw in a towel. I mean, Gabe Flores was never going to win that fight. His dad, though, kept sending him out round after round after round.
that was obvious even without a scorecard. That he was behind.
Exactly. I don't think that if there was open scoring that his dad would have pulled him. You know.
Yeah. That was very frustrating, that fight. It was horrible.
But I think open scoring can make a fighter do something that they're just not comfortable with. You know, they have to do. I mean, I remember watching the Canelo trial fight, which was a close fight, and what I thought was a close fight, but they were announcing the scorecards. I mean, Canelo was winning every single round on the judges' scorecards, and like Trout had to fight completely different than what he strategized for.
Right.
So I mean, it can mess things up, but I mean, in some cases it might work. I don't know, but I'm not for it personally.
It would have helped Derek Chisora in his second fight with Dillian White, that's for sure. Like he thought he was behind. The referee had taken some terrible points away from him for like absolute bullshit. And then he thought he needed a knockout when he didn't. He got reckless. He got clipped. As a matter of fact, I heard him speaking about that this week, and I brought it up multiple times. So look, there's good and bads to every scenario, I think.
Got you. All right. It's fight week. 2 days away, we got the big fight. Now, Joshua's the favorite, but there are a good amount of people still picking Usyk to win this fight. And if you look at the odds, Joshua's a minus 285, Usyk's a plus 210. So the odds are pretty close. I don't think there's ever been someone that close in odds with Joshua. I can't remember. If anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, please feel free to do so. But I think according to these odds, Usyk is going to be the toughest test for Joshua. So that in itself says something. I don't see it, but some people do. I don't think this fight's going to be competitive. I think when you look at these two guys, Joshua is much bigger. Usyk is being said to be this defensive wizard. I'm not saying he's not a good defensive fighter, but I don't believe he's as untouchable as everyone says. I'm going to go around the panel and get everyone's thoughts. Has anyone changed their mind on this? If you had Joshua, are you going to stick with Joshua? If you had Usyk, you're going to stick with Usyk? Let's start with you, D-Style.
Look, I'm high on Usyk. Right, let me just start off by saying that. Former cruiserweight, undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. Remember, they weigh in at 200, but they rehydrate, 210, 215. Like, they're not little dudes, okay?
Nope.
Like people make it seem like there's these itty bitty little guys, like he's 6'3", okay? Is he a giant like Joshua? Not necessarily, but he's a big dude, So I think, and I remember saying this when the fight was first kind of being talked about, and I said here on the roundtable, I said, look, this guy's a bigger guy than Andy Ruiz. Oh, how could he say that? Like, Ruiz can eat Usyk. Like, no, I'm not saying, like, obviously he's like, Andy's heavy set.
And he's a
and he's a big dude, like in a different way. But I'm talking about the frame. If Andy Ruiz got in like shape and had the body fat percentage of Usyk, he wouldn't be as heavy as Usyk. Okay,
it's an artificial.
Andy Ruiz is 5'11", acting to be 6'2". Okay, like give me a break.
It's an artificial weight. for Ruiz.
6'3". That's what he is. He's 6'3". He's hitting a little dude. And I know what I saw. I saw him hurt Chisora late in their fight. And if you want to say, oh, he couldn't knock out Chisora, though. So what? So what if he couldn't knock out Chisora? Like, Vitaly Klitschko didn't knock out Chisora. Now, I was a younger Chisora, but still, right? But I felt, won the fight clearly. He's capable. He's dangerous. He's a live dog in this fight. Don't sleep on Usyk. But with that said, I think Joshua's experience at heavyweight, being used to this weight, okay, is going to be the ultimate difference in the fight. And I think he will stop Usyk late in the fight, not because Usyk's not as good as the other guys that went the distance with Joshua, but because Usyk's actually going to try to win, not coast. And that's going to make him dangerous, okay? That's going to make him dangerous. Remember, Andy Ruiz hurt Joshua with a hook, okay? Right here in the temple area. And Joshua, like, his legs were gone, okay? And you don't fight the same when the equilibrium is off. If Usyk catches him with something similar to that, he's in trouble. Like, I'm just telling you that right now. If I were to we used to do projections on the roundtable, so let me give you a projection. 55% Joshua, 45% Usyk. That's how close I believe this fight is. I'm favoring Joshua. He's my official pick. No, I don't get any credit if Usyk wins. But I'm just giving you guys that caveat that Usyk is going to be a tougher fight for Joshua than he's being given credit for, right? So I'll leave it at that.
I'll give you a little credit if Usyk wins. Don't worry about it.
Just a little bit. Okay, cool.
I'll give you a smidgen. Right. Gee, who's gonna win?
Yeah, I like this fight, man. I do, and I want to say this: I like Usyk as well. Former undisputed champion at cruiserweight, very skilled. But here's the thing, man. He is the smaller man. He's coming up in weight. There are some questions that I have for both fighters in this fight. I'll say for Joshua, my questions for him when fighting a guy like Usyk would be, how's he going to handle his hand speed? Obviously, he's got a hand speed advantage on Joshua. Foot speed as well. He's got better legs than Joshua. He can move around. He throws good feints, all that stuff. So I want to see how Joshua handles that. And as far as for Usyk, I want to see how he's going to be able to handle a guy who's bigger than him, who can move around the ring. I don't know. We'll see if he can keep up with him, but the power obviously is going to be a big difference. He's given up 3 inches in height. He's given up 5 inches, I believe, in arm reach. So, I want to see how he reacts to Joshua's power, even if he doesn't land clean. We've seen a guy, Lomachenko, react a certain way when he got hit by Lopez, and he decided to shell up for 7 rounds. We'll see if Usyk does the same here. I really want to see how he reacts to the first time he gets hit with anything. But with all that being said, I think that the main problem I have with Usyk in his defense, I agree with you, Joe. I don't think he's the defensive wizard that people make him out to be. He gets hit, and he gets hit often. And I think the reason why he gets hit so often is because he's got a lazy fucking guard, in my opinion. He likes to just shoot his arm straight out, when guys are coming in at him. And that's kind of how he blocks punches. He doesn't really move his head a whole lot, doesn't have a whole lot of upper body movement. He'll move his entire body, but he won't dip and slip and go underneath shots. Yeah. When guys are throwing shots at him, he just kind of puts his hands out and blocks like this, Yeah. I think that's a big problem, especially when you're a guy who's got a good reach advantage over you. The last time we seen a guy use a lazy-ass guard against a man who was bigger than him, well, I shouldn't say the last time, but one of the most infamous times that I can remember, and Maestro, you could probably remember this as well because you're a big Lennox Lewis fan, was when he knocked the shit out of Naseem Rahman. He did the same exact thing, put the hands out. That was how and his corner was actually telling him to do that. He's like, put your hands out, and he got slept in 5 rounds. I think that's going to be a big problem. Now, the funny thing about that is Joshua does the same thing. But the problem is he's in there with a guy who's, again, shorter reach. So it's going to be harder for Usyk to land something over that type of guard. So I think that's really going to be the downfall here for Usyk. I think he gets knocked out, but I do think early on he can steal some rounds. He can cause some problems with the foot movement, but Joshua has shown that he can move around the ring. We saw that in the Ruiz rematch. He does got good legs, although they probably won't be as fast as Usyk, but I feel over 6-7 rounds or so of him coming forward and, again, hitting him anywhere he can, it's going to slow him down, and that guard, he's going to reach over the top, clip him with something, and it's good night, Usyk. That's my prediction. Joshua, 6-7 round, good night, Usyk.
Dave, who do you got winning this fight, and do you think it's going to be competitive?
Yeah, I almost changed my mind midweek, but I'm still picking Usyk with the upset. And one of the main reasons why is because history has a tendency to repeat itself. And I just like to remind everybody, it is National Hispanic Month, so a shout out to all my Latinos. And when I say history has a tendency to repeat itself,
HCP.
it's because Andy Ruiz, the first Mexican-American heavyweight ever, managed to break the will of Anthony Joshua already. So it's there to happen again. Usyk is undoubtedly the best boxer Joshua has ever faced, will face. But he's got a lot of things going against him. You guys are all right, especially with what G Funky was saying. He does have a lazy guard. In the Chisora fight, he took a lot of clean, hard punches early, but he managed to close the fight and do so in a great fashion. And I think that Joshua, he's shown over time to have problems with his stamina. You know, he gasses out in the mid rounds, and that's when Usyk can take this fight by decision and get at least a 7-5. The only thing of concern is taking Joshua's hard shots. It's not that he's so small, it's that he does allow people to land them. And Joshua does have elite level power. Everybody can agree to that. So if he doesn't get knocked out early, which is completely possible, I think Usyk takes this fight 7-5.
Ooh, man.
Maestro.
I mean,
ahead, brother.
I've been going back and forth on this in my mind all week, but one thing that I have never thought will happen is AJ by KO. I just don't see it. You know, Joseph Parker went the distance with AJ. I think Usyk is a better fighter than Joseph Parker. I think he's a better boxer than Joseph Parker. I think he's got a trickier style than Joseph Parker, being a southpaw, and I think he's far more skilled. Andy Ruiz Jr., you guys said it earlier, Usyk is bigger than Andy Ruiz Jr. I stood side by side with Usyk live at the Garden here in New York City. I'm 6'4", I'm about 235 right now, unfortunately. And Usyk was about an inch shorter than me, but he was pretty big. You know, he wasn't 200 pounds, that's for sure. You know, we've seen guys be able to take Joshua the distance. My biggest concern in this fight is whether or not it will be an even playing field. I know that Usyk can hurt AJ. You know, I thought it before the week, and then I listened to the BBC boxing podcast with Steve Bunce. Man, I can't remember the other guy's name. I'm sorry about that. I'll remember it later. But Costello's his name. They were interviewing Derek Del Boy Chisora, and he said plainly, Usyk hurt him multiple times in that fight. He said at one point at the end of a round, he was thanking God that the bell rang because of how hard Usyk hit him, and that the fight would have been over had it went any longer. The other thing that Usyk did in that fight was take Derek Chisora's power. People have been saying, oh, Derek Chisora hit him. Yeah, well, guess what? It's boxing. Did Derek Chisora put him down? No, he didn't. Derek Chisora throws very awkward punches where he switches stances and throws during that switch. Those aren't the kind of things that Anthony Joshua does. Derek Chisora throws all kind of wide, crazy angled, powerful shots. AJ is a more conventional boxer. he does things that Usyk will have seen. It's a more standard style for him to fight against. Then there's another thing that I heard that's given me even more confidence about Usyk's chances. I was listening to Johnny Nelson talking about the fact that a lot of cruiserweights actually enjoy fighting heavyweights. The reason being is that they feel that their speed troubles heavyweights, and that they can kind of read a lot of what heavyweights are doing because of the gap in speed, and that their biggest fear obviously is the ability to take the heavyweight shots. But I think that Usyk, yes, he doesn't necessarily have what we consider to be the greatest defense, but his defense is his footwork. His defense is his feet getting in and out of range. That's his defense. Not everybody bobs and weaves, not everybody parries and blocks shots the way that we like, but different people have different defensive styles, and he's got his defensive style, and let's face facts, it's worked for him. He's an Olympic gold medalist. He's undisputed former cruiserweight champion, and he's never been knocked down, amateur or pro. Something's got to be working there, because he's only faced off pretty much against the top tier competition as an amateur and a pro, bearing a few exceptions, obviously. So the two scenarios I see are controversial AJ victory on the scorecards, and believe it or not, and people are going to say I'm crazy, especially Fight Doctor, but TKO victory for Usyk. I can see it. I can see AJ gassing out because of his cardio. I can see Usyk getting a TKO victory because of those cardio issues. And I can also see him hurting AJ because we saw Andy Ruiz do it. So those are the two scenarios I'm throwing out there.
Really quick. So just one thing I want to say. So I get the point about Parker going the distance, but like just because one guy goes the distance, right, doesn't mean that if you're a better fighter than that guy, then there's no way you could get stopped. You know what I mean? So to give you an example, Bernard Hopkins did not stop William Joppy, right? But he did stop Felix Trinidad. Sorry, G-Funky. Okay, that's what he did. But Trinidad destroyed Joppy. Like, you know what I mean? So it doesn't necessarily mean that's just not quite how it works, right? So the reason I believe it's more likely that Usyk gets stopped than a Parker, because Parker reels it in and he plays it safe. And I don't think Usyk's going to do that. You said it yourself, Usyk doesn't know how to lose. He's going to try to win, not try to not lose.
I totally understand that.
I mentioned that earlier in the week to you, Maestro, as well, because Usyk throws a lot more punches than Parker, and if you have a more prolific offense, you're going to be open more. So
this is true. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I have not seen him hurt seriously in a fight. I haven't seen him knocked down in a fight. Yeah, and I saw a 300-pound Andy Ruiz go the distance with Anthony Joshua in Saudi Arabia. I was here in New York City, guys, when he fucked up AJ at the Garden. I saw it. I was at the weigh-in before the fight. I couldn't have ever imagined that happening because of what I saw.
But once again,
he did it. One last thing, Joe. One last thing. And then I saw AJ unwilling to finish Pulev when he could have finished them because he didn't believe in his cardio. Sorry about that. Go.
This Andrew Ruiz comparison, I think once again it's a different style. Andrew Ruiz is a really good inside fighter. Usyk is not an inside fighter. Joshua has problems with guys who smother him and fight on the inside. Usyk is a mid-range ambush fighter. Mm-hmm. He goes in and out, and he stops in the mid-range. The problem is going to be because he's shorter and his arms are not as long as Joshua's, he's going to have to go deeper in the pocket than he normally does to try to get close to Joshua. And Joshua is going to be able to catch him before he gets in position because he has those long arms. I think Joshua's biggest problem is his defense, right? But I think offensively, he is a very, very good fighter. He's an excellent finisher. He puts his shots together very well, and he sets his shots up very well. I think he's the most dangerous in the mid-range because he has that mid-range uppercut and that mid-range hook on the inside, right? On the mid-range area. And he's a very adequate outside fighter, which he showed in the second Andrew Ruiz fight. He was pot shotting him all night from the outside, and he did fight a safety first fight in that fight. So you can definitely say that. But Usyk, because he goes in and out, because he's not going to go deep in the pocket and smother Joshua's going to be in his comfort zone. He's going to be flowing with those combinations, right? So he knows that Usyk's going to come. And Usyk's another one of those guys who I believe is a pattern fighter, like Amir Khan, like Manny Pacquiao. I think they're pattern fighters. So I think that because Usyk, his only defense is his legs, I don't think he's this matrix, like I said earlier. I think he can be touched. And I think that there are going to be exchanges in this fight. And I think when these two guys do exchange, I think Joshua's punches are going to have more.
Going to hurt him.
They're going to hurt more.
Right?
Him. They're going to hurt more. Usyk, is going to be in and out. He's going to be moving a lot, but you can only move so much in a fight. There was times in that Chisora fight where he was trapped up against the ropes and he was taking breaks and he was losing rounds based off of Chisora just outworking him. Now, again, Anthony Joshua doesn't fight like Chisora. He's not an inside guy like Chisora. So Chisora can make the fight ugly for anybody, just as he made the fight ugly for Vitali, because Vitali's not an inside fighter either. So I think that this is not the style that Joshua has to worry about, because he has problems with those short guys like Takam and Ruiz who smother him, get deep in the pocket, and he can't fight them off, right? Usyk is not that type of guy. He's not that gritty, grinder type style on the inside. He's more of a finesse guy. So that's why I think that's why I think the problem is.
But the intangible here too, Joe, for me, is that we have not seen Joshua take on a guy like this. We just haven't.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
We have not seen him.
But this is going to be the biggest, strongest, hardest hitting guy that Usyk is going to be fighting too.
That's fine, and this is going to be the highest skilled boxer, one of the few southpaws that AJ's faced in his career.
But it's all about styles make fights, and like I said, I could be wrong here, but I just don't think this style is the style.
Usyk, I think Usyk's willing to exchange in the mid range, and plus doesn't move his head, man. He does not get that head off that line when he's throwing these combinations, man. He's gonna get clipped with something, man. If he can take the punch, hey, credit to him, man. I just don't think he can. I think a lot of people forget, as good of a boxer as Joshua is, both the guys are Olympic gold medalists and both can box, but only two guys have gone to distance with Joshua, and that's Ruiz and Joseph Parker. Everybody else has gone to bed.
Yeah. I hope D-Style is right, and I hope Maestro is right, because I want to see an entertaining fight. Nobody loves upsets. Nobody loves upsets more than me. So I'm rooting for you guys to be right and for me to be wrong. So
Takam didn't go to bed. The referee gave Joshua that stoppage.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. All right, guys, that's about it. I'm gonna wrap it up. Final thoughts. G, what do you think about this weekend, man?
I'm excited, man. Like I said, I got questions for both fighters, and the only way we'll find out is when those two step in the ring Saturday, man. And I can't wait to see it. And this is the start of a kickoff of a bunch of fights every single weekend. Fight fans should be pumped, man. I want to see some energy out there from you guys. We bitch and moan and cry and stomp our feet a lot about boxing, but damn it, they're giving us a lot of fights to end the year, man. So let's be happy. Let's enjoy it. And we got a good heavyweight clash coming up Saturday. So make sure you guys are watching. Subscribe to the channel, G Funky Boxing, here on YouTube. And that's it, man. Thanks for having me on, Joe. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for stopping by. Dave, give us your final thoughts and let everybody know where they can find you.
And yesterday was the first day of fall, and I thought to myself, this had to have been the worst summer for the sport of boxing in recent memory. But now we have a complete chance to turn everything around. Like G Funky was saying, we've got a really exciting schedule all the way through the end of the year. We've got 2 heavyweight title fights in a period of 4 weeks. We have Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant for, undisputed. I mean, that's a big deal. This is going to be a great fall. Hopefully none of these fights get canceled. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the Roundtable almost approaching its 50th episode. Thank you, Joe, for having me on. Very excited about that, and I'm excited to keep going on my own venture here on YouTube on my channel, The Shoe Shine. So you guys can catch that late Monday nights when you're done watching everybody else, or catch it on the replay. I'm gonna drop that link right now. Thanks for having me on, guys.
No problem.
Hey, and go San Francisco Giants.
That's right.
9 games
Best team in
away.
baseball.
Maestro, closing thoughts, brother.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Joe, for having me on tonight. And I want to thank D-Style for obviously being the creator of this wonderful platform called the Roundtable. I wish I could do an overtime because I'd love to go back and forth with T. White, aka the Fight Doctor. Unfortunately, my setup is shit right now and I can't do it. But to say that Usyk is very, emphasis on very predictable, he fights using an amateur style. I don't know that many very predictable guys with amateur styles that have been 4-belt undisputed champions. Maybe you could name another one. I definitely can't. And I definitely wouldn't categorize Usyk as that. I think people are underestimating Usyk going into this fight. You know, I get it. AJ's a phenom. He looks amazing. But if you go underneath the hood and check that engine and see what's in there, you know, there have been moments of fragility. Whether or not people want to acknowledge that or not, there have been moments of self-doubt. You know, I saw it in the Pulev fight. He's not indestructible, guys. So on that note, check me out Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. Always catch me in the chats on this channel and on my brother's channels on the panel.
D-Style, final thoughts, brother.
First of all, who's down with HCP? I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Check it out. Check out the tees and the thing. We got hoodies out here. You guys should check, get.
Oh, he just dropped. Oh no,
man.
Fuck, he was going on a tangent. I hope he can pop back on.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Maybe his laptop died or something. I forgot to have it plugged in.
Oh,
That's
no,
the GOAT right there. If Hispanics causing panic, ain't no been a bigger Hispanic causing panic than that brother right there.
Oh shit. That was a beautiful promo. Here, he's back.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. It is what it is. I actually pressed the button here. Just really quick. I want to thank everybody tuning in. I want to thank Joe B for putting this together this week. You know what I mean? So I think he did a phenomenal job. Great Roundtable 47, Roundtable 48 next week. Chief Funky's channel. Everything goes according to plan. So make sure you guys go to Chief Funky 84 here on YouTube. Chief Funky Boxing, that is. And we'll see you guys there next week. And next week, man, all back in order, man. The podcast will be back, uncensored, all that good stuff. Okay, we're getting ready to rumble, okay? And check out Ringside Reporter on Sunday. I heard they have a pretty good show, all right? That's all I got.
I want to thank you, D-Style, for allowing me to host this wonderful show. I really enjoy talking to everybody. I love these panels that we put together every week. As G Funky said, a lot of knowledgeable people here on this panel. Shout out to HCP for going strong every week, putting out a lot of quality shows that I tune into and everyone should tune into. And as D-Style said, make sure you check me out and Eric here on Ringside Reporter every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern time for the podcast. And once again, enjoy this week of boxing. Everyone stay safe and have a great night. And thank you for tuning in. Shout out to everyone in the chat as well. Peace out, everybody.